Good morning, everyone. This morning we have with us Danielle and Amanda. Amanda Evans is actually this beautiful human being that I encountered not so long ago. And of course, Danielle, is a beautiful human being that I encountered a few months back. So very happy to sort of have them both here. Amanda Evans is a parent coach and play therapist who supports families with sensitive children and also empowers children and parents to navigate transitions with more ease and empowerment. My favorite word. She supports families to make friends with their big feelings. I really like that comment. And feel safe to connect, communicate, and play together so that they can be their most true, authentic selves. Amanda believes that we all have the innate ability to heal ourselves, and sometimes we can use a little extra support. I would agree with that. New tools and strategies to help bridge the gap between parents and their little ones, and find new and fun ways to better communicate. Her goal is to allow parents to both understand and empower their child with their emotions and their own inner child that lies within. Amanda's approach is warm, loving, accepting, and also guided by the principles of neuroplasticity, as well as systemic approach to help the family heal together as a whole unit. Her own experience healing from a brain injury and teaching children with exceptionalities, I love that word too, and invisible disabilities taught her the extraordinary healing powers of love, connection, and play, and how with the right support system, anything is possible. So today we invited Amanda to come and talk to us a little bit about our little people in our lives who sometimes tend to find us in very challenging situations and scenarios. And we thought that Amanda's experience would be very useful to anyone listening today or listening to this particular, Zoom webcast. So today, Amanda, I just wanted to turn it over to you with one really general question, because I'm sure that lots is going to come out. Danielle is here because Danielle has a 4-year-old little person who Danielle has lots of questions in relation to how to manage some scenarios that's happening in their lives right now. But the general question that I have for you is just what is your message right now for parents who are struggling? Not only, many parents we know that we're encountering are struggling with separation, but they're also struggling with a lot of emotional setbacks because of COVID and because of the various things that are happening in the world that children are exposed to. So just generally, if you could tell us a little bit about how parents can manage those things better.
Honestly, what's coming up right now is just the greatest thing for parents and everyone to know is that it is okay to ask for help right now. And it is okay to not have it all together. And that's the beautiful part of everybody here has something different to share and to add and to help each other. And I feel like families can use a lot more tools right now and routines and things that are going to help with things that are kind of all over the place right now. So like I talk about making friends with our big feelings, there's a lot of big feelings coming up right now for parents and for kids. And the thing about families is we like to mirror each other. And so sometimes a parent might be really triggered by their child's behavior, but it really is a beautiful opportunity for the whole family to heal, because it might be something that like when the parent was a child, that was a really big struggle for them. And so it might be coming up for both the child and the parent right now so that they can heal. So what I guess my message there is that if there's lots of big feelings coming up and uncertainty, to try to see the gift in it, because when we can see that as a gift and ask for the support and get help with it, we're actually going to be free of whatever it is that's weighing us down. And so not be afraid to go through it alone right now, and invite in more love, invite in more support, and really seek it out. I'm always reminded that when we ask for something, it shows up. One of the lines that has always helped me and that I feel like happens before a client comes to me is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so if you are currently like having those temper tantrums in your family and just feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what you can do to help your family, you're at the perfect moment to ask for some support, ask for what you need. But when you're ready, trust that when you've asked, the right person will show up. So whether that is hiring a coach, whether that is getting somebody to take care of your child for an hour so you can have some you time right now to get what you need, or whether it's just like a friend showing up at the right time. When you ask and admit that you need some help right now, the right person will always show up.
I like your comment about temper tantrums, because one of the things that I discover is that we as adults, we also throw temper tantrums. We just don't call it that, right? We say I'm mad about something, and then we throw it on someone else or something else, and we kind of, for lack of a better word, in the moment, blame, right? And but oftentimes, if we can step back and sort of look at it for what it is, oftentimes we are throwing a temper tantrum, right? If there's impatience, and I'm finding it in myself as well, right? So impatience, frustration, whenever I'm reacting to any of those things, it's a temper tantrum that I'm absolutely throwing, right, in that moment. But Danielle, you probably have some questions around all of that too.
Definitely do. Could be talking to you for several hours, probably. Something that you mentioned just previously that I wanted to kind of pick your brain about was in terms of reaching out for resources and having that network, which is so important. And when I became a parent, you really realize it's your village. It's not just the immediate family. It's reaching out and having that that network, because it takes a village to raise a human, as we're learning. Yes, for sure. So how have you found, in your experience over the last few months, how parents and families have been able to cope with these social restrictions and being physically isolated, and any challenges that may have come up? It may not be so present now because things are shifting, but especially between March and say July, for example.
Honestly, I think it's been hard. I'm not going to say that everyone's been figuring it out, because it's been hard. And I feel like communities have been coming together in a really beautiful way, whether it's by phone, whether it is by Zoom, even though I'm sure a lot of people are like, I don't want to Zoom anymore. But people know that we need connection. Like, it's one of the most important things. And so finding it any way we can, I think, has been super important. But I also think that routines are really important. And I think the reason why at the beginning it was really hard is because everybody lost their routine. And their routine might be working with people, very close proximity. It might be like you might see that friend every week, and that's what you do. I feel like it's getting a little better right now, but I feel like the most helpful thing is to build a routine that's going to support your whole family. So I'm going to share one that I was sharing with a lot of families, especially at the beginning. And it's something that I call creating your cozy corner. And it's a great place to start your day, to end your day, or to go to when your big feelings or triggers or frustrations are coming up. Because sometimes when we feel that we want to connect with other people, we actually just want to connect with ourselves and get a need met. So I think it's just really getting to know ourselves as people, as parents, that's going to help us help our child better know themselves and what they need or what they want in that moment. So what you need and want might be actually a personal connection, but it's knowing that and asking for that to get met in some way. But I'm going to talk about the cozy corner because I feel like this is going to really help some families. And what it is it's a space in your home. So we can talk about you having one as a parent, you having one as a child, but we'll talk about a child for a minute. It's going to be a space in the home that is their space. It's their safe space to go to. And the best part is you can fill this space with your favorite things. So say like your child loves Lego. You're going to put Lego in that little spot in the home. Maybe you're going to put some stuffies, or maybe you're going to put some like really awesome books that might be about your feelings and emotional regulation. Or I really love these cards, but we have like Love Powered Co cards. I don't know if you guys know these. Love this company, and they have affirmation cards. So they're little lines that you can read. But then I also even just have like some kids love crystals or things like that, or just like little things that help them feel calm. So my advice is that when a big feeling comes up, to go to that place, to play, to find your calm. because what happens is when we're in a state of transition, we get stressed out. And the body kind of just goes into what's called fight or flight. So when we're in fight or flight, it's really hard to find our words, to ask for what we want, to ask for what we need. And it becomes that much more difficult to communicate as a family, because not only is the child in that state, but most likely the parent's stressed out and also in that state. So the most important thing to do is for both a parent and a child to get what they need first, to find their calm, maybe even to play, because we all play in different ways. And then that's gonna make it easier to communicate so that everybody gets their needs met. And maybe a child might go to their cozy corner and they're like, you know what? Now that I'm like in my place that I love, maybe they're coloring there, because coloring is a great thing for kids too, to pick out all the colors and like color out whatever feeling they're feeling and just get it out of their body. Then they're gonna be like, what I really needed was a hug. And then they can ask their mom or their dad or their parent for a hug and just be like, oh, that's all I needed today. And maybe the parent will be like, oh, I just went to like my little nook in the house. So maybe it's like your room, or maybe it's somewhere that's your space, and you did the thing that brings you joy. Maybe you put on your favorite song and had a dance party, and it brought you back to what you needed. And then you were better able to support yourself in that moment and listen and hold space for your child and their feelings. Because I think the biggest thing right now is that when parents aren't getting their needs met, it's really hard to have any space left to hold for your kids. And so I would say that, like, as parents, reach out to your networks to get your needs met in any way you can right now, and prioritize that routine that serves and supports you. Because if you get what you need, it's always easier to hold space for other people, especially the little people. Does that answer your question, or is there anything else I can support you with?
You've given me so much information. I've been writing notes down because this is so incredibly applicable to my life. So it's really amazing. I love that concept of a cozy corner for parents as well as children. You know, my little guy is obsessed with trains, so I can visualize exactly what we would put there for him, and somewhere that he can go and kind of calm down, because that's what he does, is when he's like, he has to like build the train sets, play with them. He's been like this since he was 12 months old and started daycare. When he was in daycare, that was just his thing. So that's really amazing. I also love the piece on self-care and how important that is, because this relates to a lot of stuff that we've been, Joanne and I and our colleagues have been speaking about at work, is having the holistic aspect of it. And you can't just be doing one thing 24/7, whether it's your job, your career, or your parental role. You need to prioritize that and keep that for yourself. For me personally, and we've been talking about this recently, is like, okay, I've got to figure out how to change my exercise routine, because my child's needs have changed and we're going through a transition phase. So where am I going to find that time? And it's just kind of being creative and having those 30 minutes a day or every other day or whatever, so that I can, you know, kind of de-stress, decompress, and then I come back to the parenting table a bit more refreshed and mentally charged, I guess. So it's so important. I love all of that you've said. It really resonates with me, which I think a lot of, same thing with a lot of my friends that are around my age that have young children, or children that are going between staying at home to now potentially back at school. Which is a whole other topic that hopefully we'll get to chat about in a minute.
I know it's a big one coming up for a lot of families right now.
Yeah.
And before we move to that one, because that is huge, and I have a question around that too for kids, because for a lot of my child clients as well. I just wanted to point out that even me, who don't have like a young child, I have my own cozy corners. I have many cozy corners, actually. You know, like I have happy lights that I put on when it's raining outside and it's dark. I have like these like disco lights that I put on in my house, and it's usually running all day if it's dark all day. You know, there's a special place in my yard that I sit in the summertime. That is my spot, and I go there every time. And you're right, you know, I mean, I never thought about it. It's so true. And I have a place like that in my house too. It's so true that when you go back to that space, there's something that happens. There's an energy that happens in that space that then reconnects you to what you truly need. Because when you're out in the world and everything is sort of spinning, your head's spinning, everything's spinning around you, it's really hard to pinpoint what is it that I really need right in this moment, right? And so when you go back to that space and then you just reconnect, and imagine teaching children how to do that, right? And Danielle, you and I had spoken about meditation for your little guy yesterday as well, right? That could be, his meditation corner, I love the word cozy corner, but where he refigures, oh, what do I need right now? Because right now, Felix, you're saying certain things to me, but I'm not sure that I'm understanding, and I'm not sure that you know exactly what it is that you want from me. So why don't you go spend some time in your cozy corner, and then, when the light bulb goes off, come and let mommy know, sort of thing, right? Because that's sort of how I do it too. It's different with me and my husband. I take off in my little cozy corner, and then I come back and I said, okay, this is what I kind of figure I needed now, and can we reconfigure our day or reconfigure how things are unfolding? So that's really good. The question around if we were sort of switching gears a little about going back to school, which is really tricky. And a lot of my child clients that I've been speaking to recently have said to me, they love school, they're dying to get back to school, so excited about it, but really concerned about wearing masks and what that's going to look like for them. And I didn't actually expect to get that kind of a feedback from them. First of all, most of my kids they were not as excited about school in the first place, but the fact that they've been away for such a long time, they're really excited about it now. But a little bit concerned about this whole, sanitization process and this hermetically sealed environment. So it's been a little nerve-wracking. Do you have any advice for parents around that? And Danielle will have questions of her own too, I'm sure. I'm sure this is one of them as well. But do you have any advice or anything that parents should think about?
Yeah, for sure. But I also just want to speak to what Danielle said earlier. And it was kind of that you were really responsive in getting to know your son and what he needed. And I think that this is the most important thing right here, because what works for one family is not going to work for another. And it is about knowing your family, what feels true for you, and knowing your child and how they're feeling about going back to school and what they're going to need to make that a smooth transition, if that is the right fit for them. Because I feel like a big question that's coming up right now for parents is, do I send my child to school or not? So that's step number one, making a choice that feels empowered, a choice that feels like it just feels good in your body. Like, that you're making the choice that feels right. So I definitely have tips around that, because I feel like that's what's coming up first, just deciding. Then how do you make that transition as smooth as possible? And I speak to that as knowing that especially kids are super sensitive, and there's a lot of empathic kids out there who, even if they're not feeling afraid, they might pick up on the other children who are afraid, or the teachers who are afraid, or maybe the child isn't afraid, but they know their parent is. So they're going to start feeling afraid because their parent's modeling that, let's be afraid, right? So I would say, okay, first we'll speak to making the choice. Then I'd be happy to go through how I feel like families could be best supported by starting with the parent first, navigating their own feelings around it, so that they can hold space and just listen to how their child feels. Because I feel like the conversation is going to be the best guiding post to making the choices, making the routines, making the tools that are going to help you navigate that if going back to school feels like the right fit for your family. So I would say, if making the choice right now feels hard, talk to somebody about it. Because sometimes we hear our intuition and we hear what feels true for us when we talk to somebody first, where we talk about the things that are freaking us out, what we're afraid might happen. And I think sometimes people think, well, I need to think positively and focus on what I want. But sometimes when we just have that safe space to talk about all of the things that we're feeling about it, then we get it out, and then the clarity is there. So have somebody, whether you're hiring somebody or whether you have a really great friend who you trust and you know you can talk about this and you know it's safe to let all of your fears out, just talk about your big feelings about it. So maybe it is like which side. If I send my child to school, this is how I'm feeling about that. And if I decide to keep them home, this is what I'm feeling about that. Because what I'm really sensing is a lot of parents, it might actually be for the benefit of everyone to send their child back to school, even if there is fear around certain things, because the parent might need more time for them, or they've been trying to do their job and parent and teach all at the same time. That can be a lot. And if that doesn't feel loving and supportive for your family, then maybe that's where you're going to make that choice, that school is the best thing for everybody. So if that is where your feeling is going to be most supportive for your child, knowing your child, and you knowing you, and your family knowing your family and what you really need and want, then that's going to be your choice. But if you know that you have a child who doesn't thrive very well in the system to begin with, and now they know that there's going to be extra fears or challenges, and you're really scared, that, and your child might be really scared, and you actually feel like keeping them home and doing things differently or finding a different kind of support outside of that is going to be most supportive for them and for you, then that might be your choice. So I'm not one for ever telling anyone what the best choice is for them, but I would say seek out someone you trust who you can talk to about it, so that way you can hear what feels like the best choice for your family, because you know what you need and you know what your child needs. Sometimes the big feelings can get in the way, but once we talk about the big feelings, we normally hear what we need and what we want. And so then you might get to this point where you're like, I feel really good about the choice that I am going to have my child go back to school, and I'm still a little worried about things. So we're going to talk about that. Because one of the things I like to talk about is that really kids pick up on what their parents are modeling to them. And it's just the truth. So if as a parent, you're like, I know that sending my child to school is the right thing, but I am freaking out about this. Like, I'm really anxious about it. I don't know what to do. So we're going to tend to your feelings first. So just like we talked about the cozy corner and the tools and the routines, this is where you're going to start. You're going to pick something that's going to help you move through the anxiety that you're feeling or the fears, whether it's even just journaling about it and writing it all down, or maybe as a parent, you want to start a yoga practice, a meditation practice, something that is going to support you and your feelings right now. Or maybe it's that thing like a coach or a safe space or something. I would say do your best to tend to your feelings first, because in doing that, you're modeling to your child what they can do when a big feeling comes their way. So I would say that. I also would say make it a family thing. So once you feel a little, don't make the fear go away, because that's just not true. The fear might still be there, but how can we greet the fear with the tools that we need? So I like to bring my puppets out, because in play therapy, we always have them. So I've got lots of different animals and puppets, and I find that kids really respond great about their feelings when they're not being asked about their feelings. So I'd say communicating as a family about going back to school is going to be your greatest thing, because you might be having a lot of fear that your child doesn't. Or they might be really afraid and they want to be able to talk about it. So just getting kind of like a read of where your child's at. So I'm thinking for you, because you want to make it as tailored to your child and what they need and what they love. So this is why I do play therapy, because developmentally, children don't want to go to a therapy session and be asked about their feelings. They're going to shut down, and that's when their fight or flight is actually triggered. So play is the best entryway to a child building a safe connection and bond where they're like, I want to tell you all of these things, because they're just super safe and happy and excited, and they feel like they can tell you anything and they want to because they trust you. That's the same thing as a parent. You have that beautiful bond and connection that they want to tell you about the things that they're feeling, and they know it's safe to. So the entry point is play. So I would say when you or your child is feeling anxious, that's the time to play more, to just bond more and connect more, because you're going to feel safe to talk about things. They're going to feel safe to talk about things. But the example that I was thinking of for Felix is he loves trains. Maybe they're talking trains. Maybe like the green train is feeling really scared. And the blue train is this like confident, courageous train. And then you bring the trains out and you just have them share. You get to be the voice of the train and you get to have them share about what they do when they're feeling scared. So you're gonna play, but let the conversation happen so that like the dog and the frog are like talking through their feelings and modeling how to communicate. And like, when I'm feeling so scared, I really want to run, but that's the moment I'm gonna do my rainbow breath. So this is from a really cute book I read, but kids seem to love it. I remember I told one child about rainbow breath once, and every time I see him, he does the rainbow breath now. He's like, I do it every time I'm mad. So it's just knowing your child's triggers or the feelings that are their go-to feelings, and then knowing the tools that are going to help them. So one child might be like, I really need a hug in that moment, or I really need to talk to someone about my feelings. Whereas another might be like, I need to take 5 slow, deep breaths. And the rainbow breath I love because it's really just you make a rainbow with your arms. You breathe in and you breathe out. And there's something about that that just brings children right back. And so I think the best place to go is to play with your kids, find a fun way to talk about both how maybe they're feeling and also maybe share ways that you support yourself when you feel those big feelings so they can learn those tools too. And just let them know and know that there's always a safe space to get support, that you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to model it perfectly either, because I think sometimes parents forget that you making mistakes and sharing that it's safe in our family to make mistakes shows them that they can too, and that they're not afraid to ask for help or what they need. So maybe it's really too, just when kids go back to school, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. So if children go back to school, you're gonna really want to have some things in place to support them in the transition. So what I'm feeling is the day itself might be really stimulating because they've been at home. So going back into a place with lots of children and structure and things that they might not have had, it's going to be a little more stimulating at first. So I would say, and this is what I've been hearing from a lot of parents that I work with, as really building, like maybe right when they come home from school, that's cozy corner time. Or not having any like homework right after school, just doing whatever they can to really relax and find their calm and come back to themselves after a day of being at school. So I would say the key is to just know your child, know yourself and what you both need, and do your best to just meet those needs in any way you can using tools. So know that you don't need to have it all inside yourself. Books are great too for teaching lessons and tools and tips that you might not think of yourself. So have things ready, like the trains, like the puppets, like yoga cards or something that's going to help you. So that way, if you can't think and you're stuck in like an anxious feeling, you've got something that can help you both.
I just wanted to, I know Danielle's dying to say some stuff too, but I just wanted to throw these 2 things in before Danielle does. When you say coming home at the end of the day after school, and having nothing to do, as parents, we forget how important that is for children as well, right? Because I said this to parents before, so especially with loss of extracurricular activities, the parents sometimes will have their kids like completely like inundated with extracurricular stuff. And I say, like, when you come home at the end of the day, like, do you want to get dressed and go to that board meeting or go to that whatever else things that you're doing? And it's the same for kids, right? They just want to come home and chill out and breathe, have a glass of wine, not for the kids, but, that's for us as parents, right? We look forward to the end of the day so that we can actually chill out and breathe and do something else that has nothing to do with the work that we've done all day long. And I think sometimes parents forget that for their children, and we over inundate them with things to do. But I was thinking, Danielle, maybe the rainbow breath is something we should all be practicing in the office. I mean, right? So there you go. Rainbow breath for JMS Law. That's what we're doing every time.
A really good book. It's Breathe With Me.
Breathe with me.
It's a great one
Nice.
for parents and their kids to read together to learn about all different kinds of breaths that can support them when they're big feelings. Yeah.
That's really cool. I teach some yoga breaths to kids in yoga, but I'm really curious to see what this book has in it.
Yeah.
So Danielle, you're up.
Okay. It's like you're reading my mind. It's crazy. So everything you said has been so spot on. For my personal situation, Felix's dad and I were in agreement. He's going to start school. That was a very easy decision for us to make because it felt right. However, we have a very strong-willed, emotional child who is being hesitant with the idea. So, and I don't want to downplay the fact that right now is such a difficult time for parents, and the way that you broke it down, talking about the decision-making process first and then going through. So we sort of have the opposite thing where the decision was easily made. It just, the logistics of our personal situations, it just made the most sense. But going back to parents that are still struggling with that, I see so much of it because everyone's families have different dynamics. Everyone's got different work situations, whether you're separated or together or have grandparents that are helping or in the home. There's so many individual circumstances that come into whether this decision or that decision is the most appropriate one. So I don't want to downplay that at all, because it's also something that I think we're seeing at work as family lawyers, and you sort of think, well, how can you really give proper advice on this when it's new territory for all of us? Mm-hmm. So we're just sort of like, okay, we'll navigate it as we have been doing with everything with respect to COVID. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it's great to know these strategies and how to deal with children that have this anxiety and stress, because he has been at home for a long time, and he will be starting JK. So this is the beginning of school for him. So it's sort of like, not only is he's not going back to school, he's starting school, and this is what school's looking like for this little 4-year-old, right? A few things that we've been doing is getting him comfortable wearing masks. He's not afraid of them. He will wear them if he goes inside. Something like that is I think helpful if they're going to be wearing masks or not. I know in Simcoe where we are, I think grade 4 and under, grade 4 and up, they have to wear them, but the younger children are strongly encouraged. So that's a new dynamic that parents didn't have to think about before. And certainly, the concept of playing with him and getting him to talk through his trains is spot on. So we'll definitely be incorporating that to kind of get through this with him, because there is that hesitancy, and then as a parent you inherit that. If I'm comfortable with him going, as difficult as it is, but that's what has to happen. Obviously it's not perfect, but my anxiety is going to be feeding off of his anxiety for not wanting to go, and kind of cutting that cycle down. So that's my biggest challenge right now, which sounds weird because I know most families are more concerned about the medical aspects and implications and whatnot, which is certainly significant, but that's just how my life is and what the issue is moving forward. So,
and it's different for every family, but I love that you shared, you're like, I feel good about it. And the more you just keep remembering every day that you feel good about it, he's going to get the message that he can too. But what I was thinking there is, oftentimes, especially right now, we go into these avoidance behaviors, or we focus on the fear and how we're going to deal with that fear or make it better. But sometimes the most helpful thing to do is to focus also at the same time on the things that have been going well or will go well. So in the terms of kindergarten, he's never been to school ever, right? So he has zero idea what to expect, which is kind of a plus. And also he just doesn't know. But one thing he might also want to know right now is all of the awesome things about kindergarten. So right now as parents, right, it's hard for us to go there because you're thinking of, oh my goodness, all these things are different. There's going to be masks, there's going to be this, but there's also going to be maybe a house center where you get to act things out. There's going to be somewhere you can paint. There's going to be new people you can meet. There's going to be all these things. And your child is going to pick up on however you explain something or whatever you focus on. So if you also are yes, making him feel comfortable with those things that are a little bit different and that are a little bit fear-inducing, that's going to be great. But also really keep taking that time to talk about all the exciting things that he has to look forward to and all of these new things that any child might have a bit of fear around because it's new. But every day it's like, and maybe that thing will be like when school starts, it's just like, what, maybe it's a question every day. So one of the things, I taught kindergarten actually, and it's still my favorite thing in the work I do in my life. It's the question of the day. It's maybe every day before school, you and Felix have a question. Maybe it's, what are you looking forward to the most today? And as soon as you pick them up, maybe that's where you ask your one question, like, what was the silliest moment of your day? Or what was like the most fun thing you played today? But really getting creative with our questions so that way we can keep focused on the things that really are thriving right now rather than just the stuff we're trying to survive.
So much helpful information, really. You're located in Collingwood, your office? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, we'll have to connect and at some point.
Actually too. So I do it both. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. But that's a great perspective because with, he's starting kindergarten for the first time. So it's a clean slate in terms of all of these things. Another question that I do have is, how do you deal with separation anxiety? And what kind of strategies? Because a big part of that too is, even though I've been working since he was 1, there's still that separation anxiety and clinginess to me as well as his dad, and kind of moving forward from that.
So your trains might also be your best friend again here. You can like act that out with your trains. But the biggest thing here is that your child's going to look at you. So there might be the separation anxiety at first, and that's totally normal. But they're going to look at you of how you feel about that. So if he's crying, if he's scared, and he's like, oh, I don't want you to leave, that's your opportunity to be really like strong in how you're feeling about that and be like, I love you, and I'm coming back. And it is okay that you're feeling a little sad or scared right now. I hear you. Really just hold space for their feelings around it, but also let them know that you're still going to go and you're going to come back, because that's what they want to know, that they can feel what they're feeling, but not that just because they're feeling that you're going to give in and not go, because it might be really hard at first. Like the first week could be hard because they're going to be crying maybe at the beginning every time, and it might not happen at all. Sometimes we think it's going to happen and then we're like pleasantly surprised that like they were actually just really excited to go meet a new friend and try something. But them knowing that you're there and you're saying, I'm here with you with your feelings. I'm not going to tell you not to feel them. You can totally feel scared or sad or worried if that's what you're feeling. And I'm going to be gone and you're going to have this day and do these things. And then I'm going to be right here and we'll have the rest of the day together. And so really just supporting them in what they're feeling, but also letting them know that you'll be right back and that this is something new that they're trying, and just noticing the daily improvements until suddenly they're not feeling that anxiety anymore. I think it's sometimes when we put a label to it too, it like we keep it there. Whereas we're like, right now they're just feeling some normal feelings. It's pretty normal after being with somebody for a very long time and then not being with them. Totally normal. You're going to feel scared or sad or shy. So let's just let them know that those feelings are totally okay. But I'm still going to go and I'll be back.
And Amanda, is it okay to say to a child as well, when I get back, I can't wait to hear about those stories that you're going to be, generating all day long, right? And maybe we can write some of those stories down, maybe, those kinds of things. There's someone here in Barrie who wrote a book, it's like a gratitude journal for children. And so we actually share those books with some of our clients and for their children. And it's a great opportunity at the end of the day for kids to kind of go through the journal for that day and write down the things that they are grateful for that day, or some exciting thing that have happened to them throughout the day. And it just sort of centers them in a big way. So yeah, I just wanted to ask that question because I didn't want, if it's a kind of thing that, so kids may sort of see, okay, well, I got some things to do today to tell mom. It's, maybe not, maybe not. But if,
maybe they
Yeah.
sat and cried for a half hour and that was part of their day too. And maybe that's what
Yeah.
they're going to share. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Also,
Mhm.
I was just thinking there too, it's not just for the child, because if a parent has been at home with their child and they love that and it's been really wonderful and they're scared to let their child go to school, that's okay for a parent to feel that too. So don't put pressure on yourself to like not be sad or nervous about that too. And sometimes we think we need to like hold it together for our child, but sometimes you expressing, I'm scared to leave you too and a little bit sad, but I know it's going to be really good for us. And they're like, oh, you feel that too? And I feel that too. That's okay. We're just feeling feelings, but we're still going to do the thing.
Yeah, that's very good.
Open up about it and like let them know that it's safe for them to feel that and also to try something new.
Right, right. Wow. So Danielle, I don't know if you have any more questions. I know we're sort of coming up at sort of 9:43 right now, so we're kind of running out a little bit out of time. But Danielle, if you have a question you want to ask, you can ask it, and then we can sort of see, if there's anything else Amanda has to add, and if we need to wrap up. But it sounds to me like there's so much here. It sounds to me like a whole new conversation has to happen, because I also wanted for you to have an opportunity to speak a little bit about your, what happened to you in your early 20s that sort of led you to this place. But we may not have time to do that today, but I'd really love for you to tell that story, because I think that story is going to give parents an opportunity to really understand and appreciate in terms of processing their own emotions, their own feelings, and what's happening for their own kids. So I'd really like for you to tell that story. Perhaps we'll do this again so that you can tell that story. But Danielle?
One last thing, and it might be a long question or require a lengthy response. But given everything that the society's gone through since March, really, in your practice, have you noticed significant changes in children's behavior as a result of being isolated from family at first, like grandparents, for example, friends, playgrounds? As a little anecdote to that, my kid was afraid of playgrounds because of the caution tape. So he suddenly became afraid of the playground structures, and then it took him maybe a day or two once he was allowed to, and I took him once, in our region, we were able to take them, I think a month ago, they were open. But just sort of those changes in kids that maybe were outgoing that became more quiet and afraid of people because of everything. Any sort of tips and strategies or observations that you've noticed during this period of time?
I just want to say that it's pretty normal. And I think people need to hear that, because what happens, and this actually speaks to my experience healing from a brain injury, because it was a lot about how avoidance and avoidance behaviors then create a lot of fear about doing something again. And like I've witnessed it happening in lots of ways, even within myself and like my own old patterns coming up. But I think with children, especially, if you're not seeing people for a really long time, and then suddenly you might be shy or nervous when you were an outgoing kid before, because you haven't done something for so long that now you're a little scared. So I think the same thing goes even for like adults right now. If we're avoiding something for a really long amount of time, sometimes we start to build up a fear around it because we haven't had the practice. That even has to do with like the neural networks in our brain, because like what we do consistently then builds up a comfortability with something, and then we get experience like doing that thing or trying that thing. So I think kind of that's been happening a little bit with not having human connection in person, or when we're in isolation and we're with people where all of our feelings are coming up at the same time, we might be asking, this is one of my favorite quotes, is like that we can ask for love in unloving ways when we need it the most. And so I think that's why a lot of temper tantrums, and even just, I think right now is a time where a lot of parents are having their own like inner child yelling for attention or what they need, because it's like when we go inwards, that's when the stuff bubbles up. It's like all these things that we haven't looked at in a really long time are here, and they're yelling for the attention. And that can show up in the form of your child yelling for your attention. And so I would say I've noticed, I think just a lot a lot of kids who really are seeking that connection. That was it at first. I had a lot of 3-year-olds and parents with 3-year-olds come to me at first after everything, because 3-year-olds are so energetic and they could be like off the walls all day. And now they're at home with parents who are trying to juggle being a parent, wearing all the hats, right? Wearing the parent hat, wearing now like the teacher kind of hat, the cook hat, and the like work hat, and all of the things. And that can be hard. And it's not easy to have the energy to be able to meet your child who's like super excited and wants to play all day. And so I was finding a lot of parents were coming to me then because they're like, I don't know how to support my child, and they're throwing temper tantrums and they're just like acting out. But I'm just always reminded that acting out is like a call for attention or love, and they might just not have the words. So that's why I think finding the support in any way you can right now is your best go, because what's happening is kids are wanting the attention and the support they need, but so are parents right now, because everyone's stuff has been coming up. And it's just the truth. When change happens and there's uncertainty, our old wounding or our stuff comes up, and it can be hard. And I also want to speak to, because this is the neuroplasticity side, and I know that's a big word, but it's really about our brain's ability to heal and change itself. And there's something about getting stuck in a rut. So I think this is more so what's been happening, is when we do the same thing every day, we can get stuck in patterns. That can also get stuck in like a trauma loop in our brain too, or something, which is when sometimes our behaviors regress, or we're unable to move forward, or like to just access the normal coping strategies and tools and like ways of being that we normally have. Sometimes our brains can get stuck. And so that can happen when we do the same thing every day, when we do it the same way every day. And there's been a lot of this, like the Groundhog Day kind of thing, right? So of like, oh, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go down to the kitchen and I'm going to make this same thing, and then we're going to do this again, and then this, and that's it. When we've been at home, we've all been like doing the same thing every day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And it loses that excitement, or that like the joy that used to come from, and then I'm going to go see this person today, and then we're going to go for this play date, and all of those things, which we all thrive off of that change and the positive change in that way. So one of the tips I have, and this was actually part of like my healing journey, and like one of the tools and strategies I was given, is that I needed to switch things up as much as I could. And that meant writing affirmations with both my left hand and my right hand, or sleeping on the opposite side of the bed, or when I'm driving somewhere to take a different route than I normally would. And it's just little shifts or things that are slightly different than you would normally do, because it helps your brain build those new neural networks and connections that gets your brain out of that rut of thinking and behaving. So that way you can focus more on like the present moment, the future, what's going well, what you're grateful for, without being like, and today is the same day as yesterday. So I don't know if that helps, but
I was just going to add that I actually have been lately brushing my teeth with my left hand as opposed to my right hand. Yeah. And you know, I just read it in a book. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give that a shot. So I have been doing that. So just so that you know. That's right. That's right. So Amanda, you've been extremely helpful today, and I know that Danielle got some amazing tips, and I did too, and I can't wait to try the rainbow breath. Danielle, you're gonna have to help me out here, because if two of us are looking crazy, then the rest of the office might be okay to look crazy. That's right. So Amanda, if you could tell us about the two programs that you have right now running for parents and children, just so that we can, you know, parents can hear a little bit about that and know where to find you, that sort of thing. So if you can give us a little bit of a blurb on that.
Yeah, so I have two programs. One is for the child, but it's really support for the whole family. And then I also have a 3-month coaching program for parents. So we'll start with that one, because I feel like that really is a big focus right now, that parents could use the support, because if the parents' cup is full, the whole families will be. So my 3-month coaching program it's very intuitively guided for the parent and the family and what they want and need. And I like to do an approach way. So we can either approach or avoid things. So I've talked about that a little bit. And rather than avoiding the things we don't want to feel or don't want, my strategy is to really get parents into the vision of what they do want. And really come back to that focus throughout their 3 months of their session of like, what is their vision of how they want to be feeling in their life, of how they want their child to feel, of like what they would like to be doing. But I focus a lot on the feeling because that's our strength. It's like our heart is that much more powerful than our brain. So in the 3 months, it's 3 weeks on and then 1 week to integrate. So it's 9 sessions in total, but it really is to provide a safe space for the parent to be able to talk about their feelings, to make friends with their own feelings, but also to make friends with their inner child. So we can talk about that. But part of my approach is that we do a lot of visualizations and meditations. So intuitively guided meditations for that person. Or for example, it could be that in one of the sessions, we build a meditation for your family so that your family has a meditation that you do all together. But it's really supporting both the parents to get what they need, to get the tools that are going to support them. But also the greatest part about this is that the parent learning these things is going to model that for their child. And this is a safe space to talk about your child and what they need. And it's just a really beautiful program that shifts the whole family, because a lot of times the triggers are coming up right now of like, my child is a mirror of me and they're showing me all of the things that I didn't want to look at, or it's like reminding me of being a kid and now I'm feeling the pain of when I was bullied, or like there's just a lot of things. We could go on for a while about that, but the inner child is big right now. So ways to soothe and support that, while also just having really empowering tools to be able to talk about and express your feelings, but also just be your true self and feel empowered as a parent. So there's that. And then there is my 8-week play therapy package, which is kind of what we've been talking about. A lot of the tools and strategies, it really is helpful too, because right now it gives parents an hour every week that's about them and they know that their child is being supported. So I've been doing that virtually throughout this time too, but I also normally do that in person. And the way it works is the child comes, it's weekly. So there's an hour every week and the child gets to play. And it's this beautiful hour of like playtime and the child expressing their feelings and talking about them, talking about what they need, talking about, oh, sometimes I feel really angry and I don't know what to do. And so we use the playtime as that beautiful safe space to build a bond and connection, and then build out the toolkit that's going to help the child with their feelings. And that also is going to help the parent to better understand their child and understand how to support and empower their child with those big feelings. So that is a beautiful way to bridge the gap between the child and the parents and build that understanding. And so I do the 8 weeks with the child, but I also build the toolbox with the family so that the parents are like, this is how my child expresses their feelings when they're maybe feeling overwhelmed. These are the things we're going to do to support them in that moment.
Wow, that's fantastic. Can you tell us how they can find you?
Yeah, so they can find me. My website is www.mindbodysoulmiracles.com. Bit of a mouthful, but
It's all good. So we'll post that as well. So if you can send that to Matthew, we'll have him posted so that they can find you. That is so fantastic. We've had an amazing morning here. We had no intention of sort of chatting for an hour, but here we are, right? There's always so much to talk about in all of this. So thank you, Amanda. I just saw that.
Thank you for having me.
This has been fun. This has been a lot of fun. I know that I really enjoyed it. I'm sure that Danielle did too. Feel free, Danielle, you can unmute and let Amanda know if there's anything you need her to know as well.
That was fantastic. Just question about the virtual play therapy. What age range would you say that works with?
Honestly, 3 to 12 is normally what I do, but it's been mostly like 3-year-olds coming to me lately.
And they're doing it through Zoom. Yeah.
Through Zoom, not a problem. They bring their toys, I bring mine. It has been great.
It's great.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, bring your own toys, you know. What is that? BYOT?
I like
That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Wow. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And I think we're going to have to do this again. What do you think, Danielle?
Absolutely. Maybe a follow-up once back to school starts to do a check-in or something.
That would be amazing, actually. Yeah, we could. Yeah, I think that's
for
a
the
good
parents
idea.
too.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. And thank you, everyone, for actually listening to us today.